You can order the power steering return line hose assembly used in the video on CarParts.com via the link in the description. Turn your engine off. Set the parking brake. Pull on the hood release handle and open the hood. Loosen the lug nuts of the wheel on the passenger side. Lift the front of your vehicle. We strongly suggest watching our video on how to jack your Honda Accord safely before carrying out this step. Place the vehicle on the jack stands. In order to change the return line on your vehicle, you need to take off the wheel to have full access. Don't forget to put the wheel under the vehicle. You can see the power steering fluid reservoir to the left of the engine compartment. Open the filler plug. Then, using a pump or syringe, remove all the used fluid from the reservoir. You can see the return line hose at the bottom of the reservoir. Using pliers, remove the metal clamp from the return line hose on the power steering reservoir. Then, remove the return line from the reservoir. Following the return line hose at the alternator, the hose is connected to the return metal line. Brush and spray the metal line hose clamp with penetrating oil. Next, using a 10mm wrench, unscrew the hose clamp retaining bolt. Using a screwdriver, pry off the bolt. Then, using flat-nose pliers, pinch the clamp to slide it onto the metal line. You can now pull the return hose to disengage it from the metal return line. Then, remove the return hose. On the passenger side, under the inner tie rod, you need to disengage the return line from the second return hose. Brush and spray the metal line hose clamp with penetrating oil. Next, using a ratchet, an extender, and a 10mm socket, unscrew the hose clamp retaining bolt. Then remove the bolt. Place a fluid container under the lines to catch any fluid that flows out. Using pliers, pinch the clamp to slide it onto the metal line. Using a flathead screwdriver, disengage the second return hose from the metal line. Using a ratchet, an extender, and a 10mm socket, unscrew the bolt holding the metal bracket to the subframe. You can now remove the metal line. It is difficult to remove as it is tangled in multiple parts. Take your time, using the technique shown in the video. On the passenger side, use a fork to unclip the return line hose from its bracket. Using a ratchet, an extender, and a 10mm socket, unscrew the metal bracket bolt that holds the power steering line and the return line to the rack and pinion. Then, remove the support that holds the line. You can now unscrew the hose clamp that holds the second return hose to the second metal line with a 10mm wrench. Then, remove the bolt using pliers. Using pliers, pinch the clamp to slide it onto the metal line. You can now pull the return hose to disengage it from the metal return line. You can purchase the parts we used here by visiting our website at CarParts.com. Positioned under the master cylinder, you can see the power steering rack where you will need to unscrew the pressure line retaining nut. Place a fluid container under the line to catch any fluid that flows off. For unscrewing, we recommend using a 17mm open ring wrench rather than a standard wrench. This will make unscrewing much easier. Finish unscrewing using a wrench. You can now remove the metal line. Take the metal line to be connected to the power steering rack. Install the metal line with its blanking plug to stop impurities from entering the system. Then, roughly screw the nut back on to the power steering rack. Using a flathead screwdriver, retrieve the clip holding the old hose and install it on the new one. Then, pre-install the new hose clamp. Insert the new hose into its slot from the passenger side. Remove the metal line blanking plug. Insert the hose into the metal line. Then screw the hose clamp back on. Finish tightening the metal line nut on the power steering rack. Put the bushing that holds the two lines to the subframe back in place. Then screw the metal bracket back on. Clip the return line retaining clip back on. Retrieve the bracket from the old metal line. And install it on the new one. Then lock it in place using the pliers. Take the new metal line. Install a blanking plug to stop impurities from entering the system. Hey, it's Alex from CarParts.com. If you enjoyed this video and want to support us, like, comment, and subscribe. Okay, back to work. Put the metal line back in place by passing it through all the parts. Take your time. This is a long and tedious operation. Once in place, screw the bolt holding the bracket to the subframe back on. Pre-install the new hose clamp on the hose. Insert the hose into the metal line. Then screw the hose clamp back on. Pre-install the new hose clamp on the hose. Remove the metal line blanking plug. Insert the hose into the metal line. Then screw the hose clamp back on. Pre-install the hose clamp on the power steering fluid reservoir. Insert the hose into the reservoir. Then screw the hose clamp back on. When you change your power steering return line hose assembly, air will enter your steering system. Therefore, you need to reboot and bleed it. To do this, we recommend watching our video, How to Bleed the Power Steering Fluid Honda Accord. Then you will be able to put the wheel back on your vehicle. Put your vehicle back on the ground before properly fixing the wheel in place. Operation complete.